Well, hello and welcome to Season 2's Dare to Differentiate live show. I am so excited to be back. Whether you're tuning in live or watching the replay, I am so delighted that you're here. Comment to let me know where you are from and what are you excited about. And I also want to know whether you are new to my show. If you are, comment that you're new and I want to say welcome. And for those who have been catching my live streams the last several months, type in like big fan and I want to say welcome you back as well. Thank you so much for your support. So I'm your host, Diana Y.K. Chan, founder of My Marketability, where I help you stand out, get hired, and earn more. As a career coach and personal branding marketer, I work with ambitious professionals, leaders, and executives in career transition who need help with amplifying their marketability, visibility, and credibility to attract great opportunities. I'm known for helping you identify your unique value, master your messages, and communicate with confidence. I've been featured in Forbes, HuffPost, and LinkedIn News. If we're not yet connected, make sure to follow me on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. Feel free to click like as well and comment here. I would love to hear from you guys. So let me see who is here first of all. Hello and welcome. Hi, Maria. Welcome first time from Cuba. Charlene, Canadian living in Edinburgh, Scotland. Hello, hello. Who else is here? Hello, Sabit from Pakistan. Nikhil from Toronto. All right. Oh, a lot of you first time here. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for being here, guys, today. So in honor of Asian Heritage Month, I decided to dedicate this month in Amplifying Asian Voices. So I have gathered over a dozen speakers where I will be having one-on-one fireside chats with them, where you're going to be learning about their cultural upbringing, their career journey, and a topic of interest. So every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern or 9 a.m. PST this month, I will be hosting the show focused on amplifying Asian voices. So I guess a little bit of my personal story as well for those who are new to my work and tie into this theme of amplifying Asian voices. I'm a Chinese Canadian, and growing up, I have also dealt with racisms as well. I'm originally from Hong Kong, born and raised there, and immigrated to Canada with my family to a small city called London, Ontario when I was 5. And just a little bit of storytelling. I remember when I moved there, my brother and I were one of the very few Asians in school. And I remember one day we actually, while we were waiting at the bus stop to go to school, we were told that, to go back home or that we don't belong here. And there were some of these older kids, bigger kids, actually lift my brother and I up to a fence. And we were actually left hanging there until the bus driver came to rescue us. And that was one of my experiences that I still remember to this day. But luckily, my mom, who found out about this, she was obviously furious about it and decided to knock on the door of the kids, the parents' home, and basically told them to never do that to us again. And so since then, I've really learned to step up for myself and to speak up. And sometimes I could also get myself into trouble there. And now, fast forward, when I was 10, I moved back to Hong Kong there. And my Cantonese was so poor that I actually was really hard for me to fit in as well. And I was actually been called that I was a banana, like, yellow outside, white inside. And it took some time for me to really to make friends there. And then fast forward, when I was 16, my parents sent me back to Canada all by myself to London, Ontario again for a better future and life. And hence why what I do today as a career coach is all about helping people to own their greatness with confidence. A big part of this show is all about empowering you to own your voice, value, and visibility with confidence. This is why I call it Dare to Differentiate. It wasn't until about 10 years ago where I really had a breakthrough moment to learn to really be comfortable in my own identity, in my own skin, to be able to really make a bigger impact in this world there. So that's just a little bit of my personal story and journey there. So in terms of logistics of what to expect today, we're going to have 3 speakers. I'm going to be having a fireside chat with them for about half an hour each. And I want to encourage you guys to click like and comment anytime. Share your thoughts, key learnings, and questions as well. My friend Simrat is here as well, who is going to help me to moderate the chat room. So type in the chat room, go Simrat as well, to encourage her, because she's going to be engaging with you guys through the chat here. The other thing I want to encourage you guys is to really show your appreciation and love. Share your kind words to show your support as well. Some of my speakers, it's like the first time being on the live there. So be kind to them there, okay? And when I welcome the speakers, I want you guys also to help me raise the vibrational energy up, okay? Type in, go Lorraine. She's already backstage here. Start typing in the chat room, go Lorraine, to get all of her excited as well. And then when I invite Dr. John Tam as well, type in go Dr. John. And then the last speaker, Vincent Tsang, is to also type in go Vincent there, okay? And then another common question I get is whether replays will be available. They will be available. You can just hop onto my YouTube channel and to catch the replays. I will be creating a playlist for this as well. And I will also be adding timestamps to make it easier for you to watch the show again there. Okay, so that's a little bit of the logistics there. So you guys excited? So welcome, welcome, welcome. I see more of you here coming in right now. Okay, so I'm going to welcome you, our first speaker of the day. So we have Lorraine K. Lee, Lorraine is the editorial director at Prezi, the virtual presentation software that's transforming the way people present on video. Lorraine leads the company's editorial team, working closely with influencers and thought leaders to create, record, and live stream compelling videos that educate, inspire people all over the world on topics across business, sales, marketing, L&D, and education. Lorraine has spent her career developing editorial strategies and leading editorial teams for Silicon Valley-based companies. Before Prezi, she was a news editor at LinkedIn, where she held a lead role on the 24 Hours news team that reported for and launched the LinkedIn News module, built the social media strategy for LinkedIn News, served as the editorial lead for LinkedIn News' first newsletter product, and conceptualized and hosted its Female Founders video series. She also worked on the LinkedIn's daily news team on a year-long assignment in Hong Kong, where she was a sole US editor in Asia Pacific. Make sure to follow Lorraine on LinkedIn. She has over 300,000 followers and puts up great content there. I met Lorraine just over a year ago on LinkedIn. She really got me to using Prezi for virtual presentations, and it's been a game changer for me. So I'm so excited to have her to talk to us today on her topic on delivering dynamic virtual presentations. Are you guys ready? All right, so make sure you type in go Lorraine in the chat room. Let's welcome her on stage. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Diana.
So great to finally meet you.
Me too. Thank you for that wonderful intro. And I didn't realize I was going to get a hashtag. Very cool.
Hashtag go Lorraine. Yes.
Yeah,
oh my goodness. I just want to say, like, even though this is our first time meeting, but I feel like we're friends already because we've been connecting like so often, like just through LinkedIn Messenger and email. And I just really want to thank you and your team as well for supporting me in using Prezi to really elevate my virtual presentations.
Of course. Yeah, you've been an amazing power user. I love seeing your presentation. So thank you for using it.
Amazing, amazing. So we're going to kick things up to warm up here. So I'm going to ask you the first question. Describe yourself in 3 words.
I would say empathetic, ambitious, and reliable.
Nice. Let's move into, tell us a bit about your cultural upbringing. What's one cultural value that had an impact on you?
Yeah, so I'm Chinese. My family is from Hong Kong, similar to yours. And I was born and raised in LA, and now I live in San Francisco. And I would say one cultural value that really impacted me, and I think probably impacts many other Asian Americans, is to respect your elders, and then, related to that, respect authority. And something I noticed especially when I was younger in my career, is that it was a bit harder for me to speak up at times because I felt like, as the youngest or most junior person on the team, others knew more than me, and it was uncomfortable going against that. And especially if you're right out of school, everyone is likely going to be older than you and also have more authority than you because they've been there longer. So it definitely took some time to get comfortable speaking up, but I'm really thankful that I've been able to work at companies where it was said many times over, we want to hear from everyone, and they actually meant it. So over time, I was able to get more comfortable with expressing my thoughts, even with an executive in the room. And I think really the important thing I learned is that when you speak up, just make sure you're doing it respectfully. And if that's still not comfortable yet, I'd recommend others kind of finding their voice to try different avenues, like maybe sharing an email after a call, for example.
Oh, such great advice. It's like taking those baby steps to find your voice and build your confidence there.
Exactly.
What are your guiding principles in managing and advancing your career?
So yeah, that's a really good question. So I always think about two things when thinking about my career. So the first is continuous learning, and then the second is being open and flexible to new opportunities. So I think both of these are really important to me because they've allowed me to build different skills over time, which keeps you competitive as the workplace is continually changing. And they've also allowed me to take on more challenges, which is one of the ways that someone is going to grow. So in terms of advancing your career, growing your career, I think those two values are really important.
Ooh, that's a good one. And that's probably what I see, like the opportunities that you've had too with the continuous learning and growth here.
Yes, exactly.
Amazing. Tell us about a career defining moment that changed the trajectory of your career.
I would say it was probably getting my first job out of school, actually. So when I was on the job hunt, I had reached out to a former manager at a PR firm when I interned during college to see if she knew of any opportunities. And she told me about this great startup that she was working at in Palo Alto and how much she loved it. And initially, I had wanted to go back to LA after graduation. But after she told me about this job, I all of a sudden, started seeing all these articles about Silicon Valley and how much opportunity there was and how, lucrative the region was. And so I decided to move to San Francisco instead of LA. And, while I was in school, I did not know that editorial roles at tech companies were even a thing or existed at all. But I'm so happy that they are. I've been able to use my journalism skills now in marketing and editorial roles at 3 different tech companies, and really have been able to build, my career in this space and leverage my journalism skills in a non-traditional journalism role in an industry that had a lot of opportunity for growth. So I really credit my career trajectory to that initial leap of faith I took. And again, that's one of the values I go by. So while it's, always good to have a plan and have an idea of what you want to do, you also should be open and flexible because, new and exciting opportunities will come your way when you least expect them.
Oh, that's such great advice. Did you have anyone guide you during that time, or did you have mentors or?
Yeah, no one specific. I think I have always been very active in doing informational interviews. So I think, I was able to just kind of connect with my network that way and find different opportunities. But I think, I heard about the opportunity and I was like, this feels right. I'm going to try it.
Oh, good for you. Informational interviews is definitely very valuable because you just never know what you'll learn, and it may just open you new doors to new possibilities there. So thank you for sharing that. So Lorraine, what is exciting about your current role at Prezi?
Oh yeah, so many things. So I joined Prezi about 1.5 years ago now, and we know the world has changed a lot. We're not going back to the way things were. And where Prezi sees the future of work headed is in the hybrid work or the hybrid office space. So we launched Prezi Video in November of 2019, of course, not expecting the world to become the way it is now, but the software is perfectly positioned to help companies and teams, do meetings better, sell better, train better, and then just generally connect with each other better in a hybrid world. And so at Prezi, I get to be on the cutting edge of it all and help to define this space. So as you mentioned in my intro, I lead the editorial team. And so we get to work with a lot of the thought leaders who are experts in this space to feature their insights through Prezi Video. And so again, I love learning, so I'm constantly learning from them. And I also get to help drive and be part of these really important business conversations.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, that's how we met. You reached out to me, I remember. And I think it was because our mutual connection, Jessica Chen, I commented on her Prezi video, and then you reached out to me afterwards, and that's how we got connected.
Yeah, that was exactly it. And I saw you were doing a lot of videos, and I was like, this is the perfect user for Prezi.
Perfect user for Prezi. Yeah. I love that. And by the way, I want to say congratulations on your recent promotion as well to editor director. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So next, we're going to dive into your presentation component. So we're doing something a little bit different. The audience here, I just want to let you guys know, Lorraine has prepared a Prezi presentation so that you can also experience it as well, what it's like. I'm going to ask her some questions, and she's going to give us tips along the way. So I hope you guys enjoy this. So let's start off with what are some common virtual presentation mistakes?
So two main ones come to mind. So I'm just going to dive into my presentation here. Can you see it moving, Diana?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the first mistake I see a lot is not having the right camera framing. So I don't know about you, Diana, but I'm still seeing a lot of this in meetings where, the face is very up close to the camera. And, it's great to see the person's face, but this is a bit close and frankly can be a bit uncomfortable to the person on the other side. Yeah. And I learned the reason for this. So bestselling author and people skills expert, Vanessa Van Edwards, said it's because when the person on the other side is really close to the camera like this, it replicates what we might feel in person when it feels like someone's getting into our personal space. And so what this does is our brain's reaction is then to think that this person could harm us. And then it activates our amygdala, which processes fear. So that's really why it feels uncomfortable when someone's this close to the camera. And being this close is also an issue because it makes it harder for the other side to stay engaged when they're talking to just a floating head with no movement or space to give their eyes a break like we have in normal in-person interactions. So Diana, if I was, just talking to you in person, like I might, glance over, see someone walking by, or we're at a restaurant, look down at my menu. But on video, we don't get that same, those same breaks. So you need to ideally step back so there's more space. So the ideal setup is you have a little space above your head here. You'll want to show your shoulders and a bit of your torso. And then this way you're not too close to the camera and you're also far enough away that the other side can see hand gestures and body language, which are, just really important ways that humans connect with each other and understand each other. And then this way it also feels like we're having a little bit more of an in-person conversation with someone. So for anyone who's trying to set up their space for the first time, I like to recommend, starting off with an arm's length of distance.
Oh, that's a good one. That rule of thumb, arm's length of distance. That's a good one. Yeah. I usually like 1 to 1.5 feet there. I have to say, isn't that so cool the way you just did the demo of your slide from that frame? You didn't have to move at all. You just did a one click of slide and you made your point here. I love that.
Yeah, I think I share this in my keynote. I think people really like that visual.
Love it. You made the point here. Yes.
Yeah. And so the second mistake I think people make often is sharing a slide for a long time with no movement. So I think at this point, we've all been on very many video calls or webinars where someone is sharing their screen and they're talking for 10 minutes and it's very easy to zone out. But if you start adding more movement to your presentation, it's going to keep their attention by spiking dopamine in the brain and drawing attention to whatever it is you're talking about. So this could be videos, animations, or even, just moving through your slides more quickly. So you're all in this example and experiment now. So my guess is as I've been talking, most of you have been watching this video here. Maybe some of you have been glancing at me. Probably no one has been, staring at this picture of the car chase. So you're seeing firsthand just how powerful movement is in keeping people's attention.
Ooh, I love that. So a bit of that, animation essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Love it. This is so great. I love that you're demoing it. It's not just you're telling, but you're showing it. I think that's what's making it impactful there.
Yeah. I mean, that's, people are so visual, like this is the way that you kind of get people's attention.
Okay. All right. So next up here is how to prepare and plan for a virtual presentation.
So I have 3 tips for planning and preparing. So one of the best ways to plan and prepare for a presentation is by using the Think, Do, Feel matrix that you see here. So the Think, Do matrix was created by someone named Andrew Abella. He's an author and a professor. And I love this matrix because it helps you map out how your audience currently thinks and what they're currently doing. And then it allows you to think about how you want these things to change after they see your presentation. And so my colleague, Spencer Waldron, adapted this matrix to become the Think, Do, Feel matrix, because I'm sure, Diana, as you know, emotion is really key in connecting to your audience. And most people are going to make decisions based on emotions, not facts or logic.
You're absolutely right. And this is why I always say to amplify your energy. Like for me to go live, I get myself so excited and pumped up as well. That's the feeling piece, the energy piece, right? So that you can feel this person on camera there, right? I love that. Think, do, feel. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. I always listen to pump up music before I go live on any show. Yeah. And so, with this matrix, when you fill this out, you're creating more impactful content for your audience because, of course, you'll understand them better and be able to create the right presentation for them. And you'll see here, there's, the boxes are filled out. This is just an example of what I did for my own keynote. So you can see how the now and after changes across all these 3 different factors.
Amazing, amazing. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but Lorraine has also used it in my brand colors for today's presentation, which I really appreciate. Like she literally, she asked for my brand color codes and it looks so pretty right now when I'm looking at it. I just love it.
Yeah, it looks really nice. My our intern for the quarter, Cynthia, helped me with this. So, props go to her for that.
Nice, nice, amazing. And what's the next tip there?
Yeah, so the next tip is repetition. So I, encourage you all to make sure that you're repeating your message throughout the presentation. And so that matrix that I just showed you will help you figure out exactly what your message is. And then repetition is going to be key to help your audience retain what you talked about. And then it's also going to keep your presentation focused as you plan it out. So I think the saying goes that you need to repeat your message, 7 times in 7 different ways for it to really stick. So that's, I think, a good rule of thumb to go by.
I like that. 7 times. You're right. Yeah, that's why it's good to have sound bites and taglines that you can use over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
And then the third tip here is, nothing groundbreaking, but just make sure that you practice a lot. So practice at least 10 times. I've heard that you should practice 1 hour for every 1 minute of presentation. So if you're giving, a 20-minute presentation, practice 20 hours. If you have the time to do that, like you will definitely feel ready, I think. I mean, not all of us have that time. So I would say at least, 10 times at a minimum.
I love that advice. Let's just take a pause on this because I know it sounds simple. And even when I work with clients, a lot of times I find that people spend more time on just the content, but not enough times on the actual presentation and delivery itself. And really it should be, I don't want to say reverse, but at least we got to buffer that time of the delivery and presentation so that you sound confident and smooth as well. Like even for me, like even today, because I haven't done live for a whole month, I warmed myself up yesterday by going live for 15 minutes. Just so that I get myself back into the groove of things. And it's programmed you subconsciously how you feel. And even this morning, like I woke up at like 4 a.m. I was in my bed rehearsing my intro as well. I was doing that. And while I was getting ready, I was doing that. I was doing it over and over again until it was already, you feel it already. It's subconsciously, you just go naturally there. So I know it seems like common sense, but most people don't do it from my experience as a coach. And it's because it's like, oh, I'll figure it out because, or I have my slides or I have my notes, I'll be fine there. And it's so important to practice it until you feel you sound natural there.
Yeah. Wow, Diana, you must have gotten very little sleep because I saw you email me like after midnight. So you woke up at 4.
Yeah, I was finalizing my captions here and the videos that I had to do. These were all new, right? Because we're season 2. I was like, all right, I got to update all these. Okay, so we got run through the 3 tips. I love that. So let's move into talk about how to present with impact and confidence.
So let me actually move forward here in my presentation. So I think some of the tips I mentioned earlier, like movement and the think, do, feel matrix are really great for creating impact, but there are 3 less conventional tips that I give for confidence that will also help you have impact. So the first is to use visuals. So, for me personally, I think one of the scariest things about presenting is feeling like, all eyes are on you, people are staring at you, judging you. So I find that visuals are a really great way to counteract that feeling and grow confidence in a number of ways. So the first is that they help to deflect some of the attention away from my face, which I know personally makes me a bit less nervous. And, you can point to the visuals instead and interact with your content. So it creates kind of that back and forth engaging experience. Visuals, of course, help people follow along. There are tons of stats out there showing just how important visuals are. So, for example, 90% of the information processed by the brain is visual, or 80% of people remember what they see versus what they hear and read. And then, 65% of people are visual learners. So when you are using visuals, you're definitely creating a better presentation. And I know for me, before Prezi video, I know personally I've been on calls where I got increasingly nervous and uptight the more zoned out I thought the audience was. So visuals are one way to combat this and to really feel confident about what you're presenting. Have you experienced that, Diana? Like that visuals are kind of, engaging your audience more and giving you that confidence boost?
Yeah, I definitely found that with the visuals, it just helps you make your message, your point more better as well. Like especially if you have a visual or picture, or like you said, a video, it just hones in your key message there. And what I like what you're saying is that it kind of deflects all that attention on you as well when you have a visual, because then their eyes are busy at looking at something else there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Amazing. Oh my God, I love this. Can I just say, I really love this brand color. Like I would like this template. I just love it.
Yeah. We're working on it.
I love it. I love it. Guys,
I'll share this with you after if you want to like take on it. Yeah, totally feel free.
I love it. I love it. Amazing. All right. And you got a next tip as well?
Yes. So second tip is lighting. So you'll want to make sure that you have good lighting, and it's not super obvious, but lighting can have a psychological effect on you. So, bad lighting like this doesn't look so great. And I think it's distracting, both for you as a speaker and the person who's on the other side of the video. So I like to say, try to have your light source always coming from in front of you, never from behind, as that's going to cause a backlight effect. And really, the ideal situation is you have a window in front of you, so you're getting natural light coming in from the front. Yeah. And Diana, I know your lighting is great. Like, what are you using? Ring lights, or do you have a window in front of you?
I have, those photography lights, the photographer that they use.
The photo box?
Yeah, the photo box. I have 3 of them. I bought it 5 years ago. It's like, I think, back then I didn't even have I don't even know the right ring lights, but I have 3 of them. And then I have another ring light in front of me as well. So I have 4 lights. And then plus I have 3 bay windows.
Okay, that's why you're lighting.
So there's a lot of lighting there. So there's a lot of great lighting. But you're right. What you're highlighting here is the lighting can really elevate the look of the presentation as well. It just looks and feels just the higher quality as well. Let's say, I think that's what you're pointing out. I'm so curious to know, how did you instantly switch that lighting of your presentation? How did you do that?
Yeah, so that's just an overlay. So it's like just a fade in animation. It's copy and paste the light or the lamp, and then the light comes out like that. And
it just dims? Like you add an overlay to make it
this one?
Yeah.
That was just like a shape, and I just made it slightly less opaque, and so that's.
Oh my God, you're teaching me some tips. This is how I can make my point of lighting instead of having to physically get up to turn off my lights.
That's what you've been doing, yeah.
That's what I've been doing to teach my point here. But I love that. I'm going to have to do something like that. That's a great tip there. Amazing. Okay, what's the next one here? Okay, excellent practical tips. Goodness said. Amazing.
Yeah, the last tip is to have a proper setup. So, similar to lighting, a proper setup is going to give you some confidence, because if your background is cluttered and distracting, you're not going to feel great about how you're coming across on video. And, sometimes, tight space can't always be helped, but there are hacks that you can use if you're limited on space. So there are room dividers that you can put, behind your laptop. I had a coworker who hung a curtain behind him. So there are, simple tricks like these that can, give more of an illusion that you have a proper workspace. And I like to, give these as examples. So Peter and Jessica, who we mentioned earlier, they use a clean background in their videos, which is a really good place to start. But as you get more comfortable with it, you can also get more creative with it too. So any NPR fans in the audience might recognize Guy Raz here. So he's outdoors for his video. It looks really good, and he's getting all that natural light that we just talked about is the ideal situation. So set up your space for confidence. Yeah.
Yeah. So he could do it outdoor with the Prezi slides as well. Oh, that is so cool. I'm so curious to hear from the audience. Any of you have used Prezi before? I'm curious, is this new to you? This is very fascinating just to see different examples as well. So Lorraine, I guess a follow-up question to this is how people can use Prezi to stand out in their virtual presentations.
Yes, definitely. I think perfect. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar with Prezi Video is the first to market virtual presentation software that allows professionals to bring any content on the screen with them. So as you're seeing here, so that both the presenter and the content can be seen clearly. And so you don't have to screen share and have, your speaker box shrink to the size of a thumbnail. And so there's a number of ways that you can use it. So you can import your existing PowerPoint. So your slides sit right next to you, and you can even, do things like zoom in. You can use a Prezi presentation you create in the editor, which is what you've seen me doing for the last few minutes. Or you can use one of our templates, and we have simpler ones, so you could create a video in as quickly as a few minutes, or you can use a more advanced template. And if you do any of these options, you're already going to be a huge step ahead from most people. We did research that showed that viewers were more engaged with presentations when you have the presenter and content on the same screen. So I would recommend anyone watching right now that you try at least one of these options, and I guarantee your colleagues or whoever's watching will be really impressed. And
they will be impressed, I can tell you
so again,
that.
I know you're using one of our templates. So like, how has your experience been with editing and just, formatting and how
So I use a template because I just changed it to my brand colors, and I find it very user-friendly, very easy to use, very intuitive. I love the fact that I can literally just copy some of my old PowerPoint slides into it as well, really easily, and then update it there. What's interesting as well, like yesterday, I actually did a test dry run presentation with a big organization, and they were so impressed that I use Prezi versus PowerPoint slides. They're like, we love the fact we get to see you more, plus the content, not just the full PowerPoint slide for an hour and a half of a training workshop on branding. So they were really impressed with that, which I was really happy that I was able to deliver that as well as part of the dry run. So, and I've seen some of my clients who've used Prezi for, those one-way interviews where you have to record yourself and answer certain questions. I have had clients who record 5 to 7 questions, and it looks amazing, like a 5-10 minute like intro about yourself. It's just so cool because no one else is doing it. It's a great way to stand out.
Yeah. And to your point about, having your face be seen. I mean, in the virtual world, like that's hard to have that human connection. So when your face can be seen, and again, like I mentioned before, like hand gestures and body language, like that's just going to help enhance your message and also just feel, help you feel more connected to the person on the other side.
Absolutely. I see feedback here. They're like, oh my God, this is so advanced and fun. I know it's advanced and fun, and it's a great way to differentiate, which is what I talk about a lot. So Lorraine, for those who want to try out Prezi, I know you have like a link as well. Do you want to share that with them there too?
Yeah, so the link, and I'll also share it at the end when I share my contact information, but it will be prezi.com/attendee upgrade. And you can get a 6-month premium upgrade for free. And so what that gives you is you can use presenter notes, you can record in HD, you can download your videos in MP4, and lots of other really great features. But yeah, definitely fill that out. Just mention you saw me on Diana's LinkedIn Live, and you can get that free upgrade. And there's also a free version still if any of you prefer to use that, but I would go with the upgrade.
Amazing. Like upgrade. Let's see if there are any questions here. I'm so curious if there's any questions that we have from our audience. I'm curious to hear, like, Lorraine, what are you seeing in terms of trends of the type of presentations of what people are using Prezi for? What are some of those trends that you're noticing right now?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of usage of Prezi video among sales professionals, trainers, so people in or professionals in L&D. I would say those are 2 of the main groups. And then, of course, last year, like a lot of educators were using Prezi video. But it makes sense, for sales, you're always, talking to people externally, and you need to feel that connection with them, but also, show your content. And then training too, of course, right? Like with new employees or just, internal trainings, that makes a lot of sense that you would want to, have something more engaging like this.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And I've also used it for just my short videos as well. Like I'll create like a 5 to 7 minute video with like 5 tips, and it's been great. And you know what I find it's great is that it actually helps me not memorize, but I know what I need to say next because my point is there as well. So for those who are looking just to create some quick tips video, it's a great tool as well.
Yeah, awesome. Exactly. Yeah, many career coaches like yourself as well.
Good. Any final words, advice for the audience here?
Yes. So I would just say, for anyone, just again, trying to grow their career, manage their career, just please, keep in touch with all the people who have helped you before or who you've worked closely with before. You never know what opportunities can come from those relationships. If you don't have those relationships yet, maybe you're more junior in your career, start reaching out to people on LinkedIn or in your alumni network or from interest groups. And I've seen that younger people can sometimes feel hesitant to reach out, but I think as long as you're being genuine, introducing yourself, sharing a line or two about what you want to talk about and what drew you to that person, you'll find that most of the time, 99% of the time, people will want to help you. And then the second thing is just to be open to feedback. It's really one of the best ways that you can learn. I mentioned this year I started giving a keynote about how to stand out on video and boost LinkedIn presence. And anytime after I give a keynote, I always include a feedback form because I know I still have more to learn. So, hearing constructive feedback isn't easy, but knowing how to ask for it and then act on it will help you just move up and grow your career more quickly.
Oh, that's such great advice. I love that. And I love seeing you doing more presentations as well this year, Lorraine. That's fantastic there. Yeah. We have one final question here from the audience is Prezi on mobile or app? And are there Prezi demos on YouTube? I guess people want to learn more.
Yeah, that's great. So no mobile app right now, but yes, we have live training. So I think that's prezi.com/training. You can sign up for any of those and just, a lot of resources on the site as well. But if you, again, use this link to sign up for that upgrade, we will be emailing you additional resources to get started.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your journey and your insights. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Take care. Okay, bye, Lorraine.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, wasn't that wonderful? I hope you guys learned a lot about virtual presentations and about using Prezi as well. I definitely picked out some cool tips as well, so I really enjoyed that. Make sure to follow Lorraine and connect with her there. So next up, we have our next speaker, Dr. John Tam. So I met John just last year in December through our mutual connection, Kamara Toffolo. And shortly after, after we connected on LinkedIn, I found out that we live really close to each other. We're like 5 minutes away from each other. We're like neighbors. So we've actually, besides my family right now that I see the most, Dr. John Tam is someone I actually get to see in real life on a weekly basis where we go for a walk in the park to connect and to mastermind there. So Dr. John Tam is a career clarity coach who specializes in helping Asians with advanced degrees to gain clarity and reach the next level in their careers. He has 5 degrees in history, education, culture, and society with a Ph.D. In sociology at the University of Oxford. His research was on Chinese immigrants. John has published original research in leading social science journals and major media outlets. He's lived in Korea, UK, and now in my neighborhood in Markham. He speaks Cantonese and Mandarin fluently. So his topic today is around breaking the bamboo ceiling. So are you guys excited? Let's give a round of applause and type in "Go Dr. John Tam." And let's welcome here on stage. Hi, John.
Hey, Diana. What's up, neighbor?
What's up, neighbor? I just saw you yesterday.
Yeah, we just saw each other yesterday. How's your day been so far?
It's been great. I've just been so pumped up and getting ready for today's show. And it's like season 2. So I'm just feeling super excited for today's show here. And thank you so much for coming back as well. I know you were on my show last year for the Career Relaunch Summit, where you talked about personality psychology. And today we're going to be talking about breaking the bamboo ceiling here. So before we dive into that topic, I want the audience to get to know a little bit more about you. So let's start with a rapid fire question. Describe yourself in 3 words.
3 words. I would say nerdy, driven, and I'll probably just go back to nerdy again, like geek, another version of geek or nerdy. But yeah, I'll probably go those. Yeah.
That probably explains why you got 5 degrees there.
Yeah, you got 2 hanging here, but we can definitely talk about the degrees and being Asian and all that later on. It's so, yeah. I mean, it's so part of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about your cultural upbringing. What's one cultural value that had an impact on you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting to talk about my upbringing because growing up in Canada, I actually didn't grow up in Toronto, which is in Toronto Markham, right, where it's all Asian. I grew up in Ottawa, and in Ottawa there were much fewer Asians around in my neighborhood. And when I went to school, there was maybe one East Asian and perhaps one South Asian, right? But my parents, grew me up raised me in an environment where we were not allowed to speak English at home. My mom would go out of her way to make sure there's no English at home, make sure there's Chinese writing everywhere, like even in her notes and on like, on the fridge or whatever, right? And so that really gave me, it gave me a very interesting juxtaposition, because there's, at home it's the East, and my parents made sure it was the East, but at school it was West throughout. And I experienced racism. I got beaten up. I got called, Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, look at these, and ching chong ling long ting tong. I mean, the whole nine yards. So yeah, but it's I guess the cultural value is the resilience, and people can throw stones at you, but whether you let it fester or whether you actually let it sit there and hurt you is something else.
Yeah, yeah. And it's great. It's just hearing this story, because I mean, I think probably just thanking your parents, because you now speak fluent Cantonese and Mandarin as well. I mean, I know a lot of people lose that language when we don't speak it there. And I'm actually really grateful that my parents moved us back when I was 10, even though I sucked in my Chinese as well. But because of those 5 years, I was able to read and write in Cantonese there. So thank you for sharing that there. Can you tell us a little bit, what challenges did you face in your life, career, or business because of being Asian? How did you handle them?
It's interesting, because when I compare myself to my other coworkers, so I worked in education in a small, in two schools, like before my PhD and the whole academic journey, and now working for myself, it's something else, right? But when I was still working the 9 to 5 in education, it was interesting, because I didn't see a lot of it. I was at an international school in Korea, and it was run by Americans. And at the same time, there were not many Asians in leadership, like period. And interestingly, like I saw other Asians who know other teachers who were Asian working there, and some of them talked about getting promoted, tried to get promoted or whatnot. But in my case, I did not have this problem. I got promoted pretty quickly, and in we can talk about this later. But in retrospect, there were a lot of soft skills, a lot of non-typical, breaking the Asian stereotype characteristics that I have. Which really allowed me to, break the bamboo ceiling. So number one, I played basketball with, the leaders of the school. And so when you play basketball, it's like you're ballers and we're equal. And if I score on you, I score on you. It doesn't matter if you're Asian or not, right? And another thing is I'm a very outspoken person. I'm very opinionated, and I won't think twice about, letting my thoughts in an open forum meeting. And so there were a lot of characteristics about being Asian that I simply didn't fit. And but at the same time, I also saw others who struggled with this. And I'll be glad to talk about this more.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to give a quick shout out to one of my classmates, Andrew Lang here from MBA school. I haven't talked to you in like over a decade, so thank you for joining us there. I see him commenting here. My next question here is, can you maybe talk to us a little bit about your near-death experience? And I just found out a couple of days ago, and looking at videos, I was shocked. So when we were chatting about this yesterday, you mentioned that, I want to hear a little bit about it, but also just the lesson there as well.
Yeah, I think one thing about goes back to the cultural values. It's the resilience, and I think it's a very Chinese thing. And I want to say that because when you look at the diasporas in the world, diaspora meaning the pockets of population of people around the world, there's really probably two groups of people that are literally everywhere, right? There's the Chinese, and there's the saying, where there's water, there's the Chinese, right? There's a Chinese saying that says that. And then Indians, like South Asians, they're pretty much everywhere as well. I think it's got this, and being a foreigner in a place, it's always been part of the Chinese cultural DNA, I would say. And so resilience is a piece of that. And a lot of times the idea is you got to break through hard work, right? But I think that's one of the things that, led me down a path of just taking on too much. So at that point, at that point in my life, I was and I was a department head. I got into leadership already. I was, working. I was getting my master's. I was applying for my Ph.D. I just had my second daughter, and both my kids were under 1 at that time. I was, doing a whole bunch of extracurriculars. I was doing a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And when I went to a conference in Thailand, I was literally sleeping at 4 or 5 every night and getting up at, 7 or 8. So when I went to Thailand for a conference, what happened was I started having these red spots on my waist, and I was like, oh, okay, bed bugs, whatever, like, something bit me. I'll be resilient, and I'll just, at that time, my MO was, just tough through everything, right? But before long, those red spots slowly spread, and then from one end of my waist to the other, and I started feeling like, I have a very high pain tolerance. But at that point, I was like, it hurts so much. I'm like, oh, something's wrong. I need to see what's up, right? So I went to the hospital there, the expat hospital there. Went into the ER, talked to the doctor. The doctor looked at me and it's like, John, you know what? It didn't come in here today. You'd be dead the next day, right? And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, you got shingles. And then the shingles had been there for like over a week at that point. And so they put me under, they put me under morphine. I was out for like a good 1 week, and it hurt so much. When I woke up and it was over the dangerous phase, like I couldn't like, it hurt so much I couldn't even hold my baby at that point. It was like it just hurt so much, and I felt like a failure. I felt like I let my family down. I let everyone down. But at the same time, it was because of hard work and resilience. And at that point, you just kind of make certain, learn some lessons and reflect upon life and make some changes. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. And what changes did you intentionally make after that?
Work smarter, not harder. And I always remember, it's like, Asians are always known to, like, the reputation, and this is even like going on right now in my research, right? So right now I'm interviewing people about their experience of the bamboo ceiling. I know there's literature out there and there's research done on this already, but it's always different when you actually have the conversations yourself and you do the research yourself. And the whole point of this is to create a program to help Asians, break this bamboo ceiling, right? In terms of soft skills development or whatnot. But anyways, in these conversations, like, the common stereotype is, you're hardworking, you're quiet, you keep your head down, you're not a troublemaker, harmony first, and all that stuff. And and I had that model, walking into that school. But one day, like, the headmaster's wife was talking to me, and it's like, John, you're working really hard, I see. And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of what I do. And then, she's like, you know what? Like, remember, like, one thing is, you like always work smarter, not harder. And then I was taken aback for a minute. I'm like, wait, where's this coming from? Right? What if I work smart and hard, right? But at the same time, like, at that time, I didn't really get it. But over time, it really does sink in. And it's like, you know what? Energy and time is limited resource. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah. That's
such a great, important lesson, I think, for many of us. Like, I think even just relayed working too many hours and how whether you got sick or impacted. I remember for me, like, when I was in consulting, I worked like 90 hours and it did impact my health. And even a couple of years ago, like, when I had young kids, like I got really sick as well too, trying to juggle it all with business and other jobs and stuff. And you have to really, it's like a wake up moment that you need to decide what's really, truly important there. So so let's move into your topic here. Let's talk about what is the bamboo ceiling? What are the facts and stats?
So the people have been talking about the bamboo ceiling for a while, especially in sociology, which is where my PhD is from. In particular, I got to give a shout out to Hunter College's Margaret Chin. She came out with a book, like, I think just a few months ago, called Stuck. And what Margaret talks about in there, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but pretty much there's an overrepresentation of Asian Americans at the, at companies, but there is a massive underrepresentation in terms of, leadership, right? And some people can chalk it up to, Asians were, there weren't that many Asians in the 60s and 70s, and that's why you don't expect them to be in senior leadership, right? And that does make sense, but at the same time, that research isn't only purely quantitative. There's a quantitative element, there's a qualitative element as well, where, she interviews 150 or 103, senior executives in the States. And it's like, one of the things that does come out is, yes, there are mechanisms that Asians do that trigger that, keep them in certain positions, right? Several of them, you're good at math, you're soft-spoken, you don't have the leadership qualities, you can't think on your feet, you can't speak up for yourself, you don't self-advocate, you don't have a brand. All those things, for women, it's especially tough, right? They get the double whammy, the double penalty. There's that, if they speak up, it's like, if they speak up, they feel like, oh, wow, you have an opinion, you have or you come across as overly aggressive. But if you don't speak up, you've kind of fall into that mold where there is this, confirmation bias of, the submissive Asian woman that doesn't cause any trouble, right? Mm-hmm. And there are historical reasons for this. And I talk about this at length in my blog, drjohntam.com/blog. I recently came out with one about the bamboo ceiling where the numbers are there, the qualitative and quantitative data is there. So, but essentially, bamboo ceiling, a lot of us in, working professionals, but not many in leadership.
Yeah, that's a great message here. Guys, what's resonating with you? What questions do you have? We do have a couple of questions here from Andrew here. So Andrew has here is, what do we have here? Yeah, a colleague recently highlighted being outspoken may be off-putting to colleagues who stereotype Asians as conforming. Any views or thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I think there's an element, if you do it once or twice out of the blue, then of course it may be off-putting, right? But however, if you make it a point to speak twice at every meet, lean in, speak twice, project with confidence, and of course it's got to have substance as well. If you do that twice every meeting, it's going to make a difference, because you do it the first time, people will be like, oh, wow, this person has a voice. It's an accident, right? But if you do it twice or three times at every meeting, people are going to get used to you speaking up and you having an opinion. And that's always a sign of leadership. And if you look at personality psychology, which we discussed last time, Diana, being disagreeable is a hallmark of a leader in the West, period. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people don't get promoted because they feel like, oh, you can't hold your position. You can't advocate for yourself. You can't say no. You're a people pleaser. And because you're a people pleaser, you end up doing a lot of menial work and technical stuff that, anyone else can do. And then you end up becoming a tactician and not a strategist. And similarly, once you get to the higher levels of leadership, what's more important is strategy, right? Not tactics, not implementation, it's strategy. And perhaps the most important factor at the top is, the higher you go, the more important trust becomes. Because entering leadership, especially the C-suite, is being seen as you're given the keys to the organization, right? And when you're given the keys, it's always important that people can trust you. If you let an enemy into the C-suite, that's actually very dangerous, right? And therefore, that's why people love to go with what's familiar. Homophily, that's what we call homophily, the love of the similar. And over time, you have these patterns where you have the people say the old boys network or white male leadership or whatnot. These are the mechanisms that keep on reinforcing, and it's sociological. It happens everywhere. You go to China, you're not going to see a white male in Chinese leadership either. So these are ceilings that people have to break. These are normal human mechanisms, but you have to break them, period.
Yeah, that's great advice there. Like something you got to do. And I have a follow-up question, which ties into what we're talking about as well, is how do you suggest people to solicit the help of allies to break the model minority myth? Perhaps maybe we can define what it is first for those who are not familiar as well, and then we can talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, Diana, you've been talking about the model minority myth. Would you like to, chime in on this?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing research. I want to get your take. I mean, it's interesting because what's interesting is that, or why it came up before is really there's this gap, right, in terms of Asians, in terms of the wealth, education. There's a huge gap. I forgot what the percent. It's like the top 10 percentile is almost 10 times greater than like the bottom 10 percentile there. So there is a big gap there. And so when I think about, that ties into your answer, to be honest here, is around speaking up, right? If you need help in terms of either getting a mentor, asking for a mentor there, asking for a coach, asking for a sponsor or an advocate, I think that's really important to be seen and be heard there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's the model minority myth where, like, a lot of times people feel like Asians are they're doing well enough that they don't need the extra help.
Yes.
Right. And the truth is, especially given recent times, what's happening with COVID and the increase in anti-Asian violence, Asians need help as well. And even when you talk about like Asians, like that, Asian as a category, you're literally talking about almost half the world, right? You got 1.3 billion Chinese, 1.34 billion Indians. You're talking about a good 1/3 of the world, or half if you include the Pacific Islanders and the rest of the people around there, right? So, it's not fair that sometimes these initiatives aren't helping Asians, but at the same time, it's a difficult conversation to have. I don't think we actually have time.
Yeah.
This too much.
But you know what you're just saying too, I think traditionally, and just from reading my research as well too, is that because of the model minority myth, I think traditionally in DEI type of initiatives, Asians are left out of the discussion there. Yeah. And I think so now I think things are, starting to have more of these conversations as well in terms of the type of support we need to provide to Asians in terms of advancing their careers, which is why we're talking about this topic of breaking the bamboo ceiling. I want to ask a few more questions here of the science behind unconscious bias. How can people overcome this bias?
Yeah. So that's two questions actually. The first question is, what's the science? What is the unconscious bias? Unconscious bias are scripted behaviors that we have in our if you separate the brain into two parts, right? There's a fast brain, there's a slow brain. Research done by Nobel Prize winning Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow, right? And that's the name of his book. So the fast brain are the fast action instinctual responses, usually in the limbic system, amygdala, area where you basically it's natural scripted behavior where you naturally assume something really quickly because sometimes you don't have the time to consider whether something is threatening or not. That's what kept us alive. Back in the caveman days, if we walk outside, you see a shadow that looks like it's moving, your fast brain is going to be like, get out or run, fight or flight, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. The slow brain is what holds us back from unconscious bias. So it's that pause. And Mel Robbins calls it the 6-second rule, where you take a pause and you think things through. It's like, hey, wait a second, is that moving shadow really dangerous, or is it not? Right? And that's what holds us back. So unconscious bias exists. We all have fast action, fast scripts which we automatically process whether something's a threat or not, threat, pleasure, or not. Right? And then the other thing is, the slow brain is what we need to use to slow it down. And so what the research actually shows is, yes, we all have unconscious bias, implicit bias or whatnot. However, there's no proof that there is an association between the bias and your action and discriminatory action or, outright racism or whatnot. There's actually no association between that right now in terms of the psychological literature. So yes, unconscious bias exists. Number two, we can control it, but with the slow brain. But the thing about the slow brain is you want to be the slow brain when you're tired or when you've had alcohol or when you're super relaxed, your critical thinking brain just kind of shuts down, right? And that's where the risks may come out. And that's where all the implicit bias stuff may rear its ugly head. And that's where we got to be careful of.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one there. I want to ask a couple more questions here. This is so good. I feel like I can geek out with you on this, like for a whole hour on this there.
We can, totally.
I want to talk about examples of racial microaggressions because it does exist, and we all face it. How to respond to microaggressions at work?
Yeah. So I mean, there's several things. I recently made a post about I don't like the term microaggression because I don't feel it's very good it's not very conducive to psychological safety at the workplace. And the reason for that is because whenever you say aggression, right, there is an implied ill intent or malicious intent on the part of the person who did it to you. But sometimes that person may just be, they just might never have seen an Asian, right? Like that's an example. And And I remember we talked about this once where you went to Beijing and then you got these random Beijing students just walking up to the white person, and like, oh, can I touch your hair and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, that guy, like, if that guy was being microaggressed against, he'd be like, that would be a massacre or whatever, right? And also in your case, it's like, why don't you speak Mandarin? Sometimes people just don't know better. I think microaggression, I'm actually okay with the term microaggression when it's repeated behaviors after you've set and reinforced boundaries. So if you don't like someone, like, touching your hair, for example, because they feel it's exotic or whatever, then just, establish those boundaries, communicate clearly. Like, I don't, just say it, right? You got to speak up. And that's also part of self-advocacy or whatnot. And, over time, once you set these boundaries, because like the workplace is an established environment where you see the same people over and over again. So you can build a reputation, you can build, they can build expectations. And so therefore boundaries are super important. And if those boundaries are not respected, then you can look at, what else can you do? But in terms of racial microaggressions, there's a lot of them. Like, why is your English so good? I get that. What's your
I get
real
that
name?
too.
Yeah. What's your real name? Where are you really from? And sometimes it's just like they don't know the term ethnicity. Like, they want to say, what kind of people are you? Like, what people group are you? Like, that sounds like that doesn't sound cool. But if I see a fellow Asian, hey, what, like, I'm reading your last name. What ethnicity is that? I can't make out what language it's in and what ethnicity. That's the actual proper term. So, being educated on proper terminology is also helpful as well.
That's great advice there. So what I'm just hearing, like, instead of saying, where are you from? You say, what's your ethnicity? That's a better term instead of saying, where are you from?
Yeah. I think so. I mean,
yeah, good. This is good. Guys, what's resonating with you? This is so good here. Let's just a couple more questions, and then we're going to have Vince here, there. What can Asian professionals do to break the bamboo ceiling?
Yeah. So what has been proven, and this is from the research that Margaret did, there's several things. Number one, mentorship definitely helps. Sponsors definitely help. Learning the proper soft skills that are expected for leaders. And so, I'll give it to you right now, right? If you're to use the Big 5 personality traits, which is psychometrically valid and reliable, I know I just geeked out there. But Big 5 personality traits, if you do a quick Google search on it and take a test, the ideal leadership profile, typically, if you use the acronym OCEAN, is being high in openness, which means you're strategic, being conscientious, which means you're driven and you follow through, being extroverted, this is particular to the West, being disagreeable, meaning you can set boundaries and reinforce them and hold your own, and also, fight for what you want to get. And then the last one is being not low in neuroticism, being not neurotic. So you're steady, you're composed, stress doesn't really faze you. So build the soft skills that lean towards those directions, and you're going to be in a much better position to break the bamboo ceiling. Last of all, what's been proven to work is also executive training programs, where you go and speak to different people, network with different people, especially people in the upper echelons and in corporations. And that's where you really build those skill sets to navigate and break the bamboo ceiling. Oh,
that's such great advice. I love this. I mean, what I'm hearing is it is essentially taking charge of your career, right? And being proactive and managing your career, raising your hand, speaking up, which ties into, this was last question here, which ties into what you're saying, like how to really acquire social and cultural capital. And I love this because it's part of what I do too, in terms of talking about networking there. Do you have your quick tips? And I'm happy to chime in on this one too. I love this one.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and I'll fill in the blanks.
Yeah. So one thing I always talk about when I think about managing your career, like you really have to, it is building relationships. I'm really big on relationship building. So having like small talk conversations, I know it's harder right now virtually, but what I found like has worked really well even over the past year is like using LinkedIn Messenger to connect with people. I met so many people online just through having quick chat conversations or text conversations there. That has been really helpful. The other I find what has been helpful is just even promoting others, right? When you are not only you're networking, but if you can also promote others around you, you are also elevating your credibility as well, because you're surrounding yourself with people that you believe in, that you endorse, right? So that's really helpful, I find. The other, it ties into this is I think it is seeking either mentoring support or getting career coaching. I definitely have found even the last several years compared to when I started 10 years ago, I feel like right now, a lot of ambitious professionals and leaders are really willing to invest in themselves, like through career coaching, so that they can really advance their career by building their soft skills, their self-confidence, communication, how they build trust, how they develop executive presence on camera there.
Yeah, I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head. The only thing I would add is, is that, when you network with people and you have real conversations and you connect with people, you actually, you create a network that allows you to, see more in the landscape, and you can navigate this. And I think it comes down to the whole idea that if you don't have choices, if you don't have a choice, you're a slave. And you don't want to be a slave. That's when you feel stuck. That's when you feel like the world's, unfair. That's when you feel like the world's crumbling down on you. But when you have choices, when you have options, when you're building these skills, then you have a choice and you're not a slave. And that's when you truly feel empowered to say no to that crappy job that you don't want to take, to say no to that micromanaging boss that's, that keeps on overstepping your boundaries. Right. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from, building the cultural capital, the soft skills, how to connect with people, the social skills, the network, and so on.
That requires us to really be proactive to learn. When you think about it, like even cultural capital, I remember in your video, you talked about, was it the wine example you had?
Yeah.
The wine example, is that like similar to like when people talk about golf as well? I remember when I was in university, I remember like in my undergrad days, they're like, you got to learn golf in order to get into the club or get into like to talk to executives as well, is to pick those skills up so that you could, to network there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Good. So what's your final advice, final career advice that you have for the audience here?
My final career advice is, if, going back to our main topic of the bamboo ceiling, if you want to break the bamboo ceiling, or any ceiling, even if it's a glass ceiling, whether it's for an immigrant or because of your gender or because of your sexual orientation, or whatever it is, really, the higher you go, the more trust becomes a factor. And trust is not, of course, at that level, everyone has solid hard skills. And everyone who can apply at that point, they can do what they can do. The key differentiating factor at that point is trust, and trust is all based on soft skills. And therefore, if you want to break any ceiling, it doesn't matter what, bamboo or glass or whatever, then build those soft skills. Of course, you got to be cognizant of the fact, if you are in an environment where there's a concrete ceiling and not a bamboo or glass ceiling, then maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah. Hashtag build soft skills. That's definitely a hot topic this year. A lot of people have been talking about it already the past year. So thank you for reinforcing that message of building trust in your soft skills there. Well, where can people find you, John?
Yeah. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Always welcome connections and having conversations. You can also read more about what I do on my blog, drjohntam.com/blog. But probably, a lot of the stuff that I talk about and what would really help you in your career is on my YouTube channel, also Dr. John Tam. So just look it up and hopefully we can chat there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and insights. I really appreciate you as well. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon.
Yep. Thank you, Diana.
All right. You take care. Bye now.
Take care.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys learned a lot. The topic, there was a lot of juicy, facts and stats and science and all that. I hope you guys really enjoy that. Next up, we have my friend, Vincent Tsang, who I met about 5 years ago, again, on LinkedIn as well. Vincent reached out to me 5 years ago after watching one of my webinars, and we share over 800 mutual connections on LinkedIn. Such a small world there. Without any outside funding, Vincent started and sold InfoCheck, Canada's leading background screening firm, to a publicly traded firm on the NASDAQ. Along with many failures, InfoCheck was named to the Profit magazine's Canada's Top 500 Fastest Growing Companies list. Vincent has been a presenter at the annual HRPA conference, City of Richmond Hill Entrepreneur Small Business Center, PEI Startup Zone, and George Brown College. With over 20 years of entrepreneurial and sales and business development experience, Vincent's been interviewed and featured in Globe and Mail, National Post, Toronto Star, Canada AM, and CBC. He's here to talk to us today on winning without selling, and he specializes in helping solopreneurs to grow their revenue without selling. So are you guys excited? Let's type in the hashtag Go Vincent. I know this is his first time coming on live stream, so let's raise his vibrational energy up, show him the love and support there. Okay, let's welcome him on board here. Hi, Vincent.
Hi, Diana. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. I'm honored and thankful.
Oh, I'm so delighted. As I was preparing this, I was thinking how we met just over 5 years ago, and we haven't actually met in person at all yet, but we've connected quite a few times on LinkedIn, had a few Zoom chats as well. And I just really love how you're so good with relationship building and connecting, which really ties into today's topic. That's really who you are.
Well, thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm glad we've met over LinkedIn, and I can't wait to see you in person. I know we don't live far from each other, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait there. So why don't we start off with a quick rapid fire question?
Yeah.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, contrarian, loving, and fun.
Ooh, loving and fun. Yeah. What are your guiding principles in managing and advancing your career? And what differentiates you?
Oh, do what you love. I always do what I'm passionate about. And now I do what I would do for free all day long, but now I get paid for it.
Oh, amazing. Oh, so this is like you found, would you say, is this like the purpose driven type of work that you're doing right now? Absolutely.
I always find the money always comes when you do it not for the money, right? And so I've been coaching entrepreneurs ever since we sold our company way back, in 2004, but I would do that for free all day long, right? If you called me and say, hey, Vince, whatever, 6 in the morning, 8 at night, 10 at night, I would talk to you for hours about your business. I just love it. And now I get paid to do it. So I don't feel like I'm working every day.
Oh, amazing. Let's talk a little bit more about this, of why you decided to pivot to become a business coach for entrepreneurs, because you've had multiple roles, you've founded multiple businesses as well. Like, tell us a little bit more about the why piece there and how it unfolded.
Oh, well, I mean, what I realized, sure, I've had some success, right? And I realized starting, growing, and scaling a business is not an easy thing to do. And then selling it to a publicly traded firm is even harder. But I've gotten my ass kicked for 20 years as well. I want to be super clear about that. So I actually believe the lessons that where I was getting my ass kicked, if I can help entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes that I've either personally seen or experienced, I can save a lot of time and money. And that's my why for other entrepreneurs. And I would say 90% of entrepreneurs, that includes me, usually fail in the first 3 years. And the main reason is lack of revenue, lack of sales. So that is the pain that I love to solve. And I work now with solopreneurs specifically, right? Because I know I love serving people that they love what they do. They're like 150% passionate. They're not doing it for the money, but they're just not great at winning business. And so that is the pain I solve. And that's why I literally fight every day to help them. All I can think about, Diana, literally every day, and all my clients are different. How do we get Lisa revenue quicker and faster? Because I know without the revenue, we're done in 3 years. Some people only have 6 months, whatever the case. So that's my why. And, you know, I've always been doing it. I just now kind of pivoted around it, but I love it. And even with COVID happening, my business is going well. I love what I do. And I learn every day. I don't know everything. And so that is my why. And I just love what I do.
I love it. Oh, I can feel that passion and conviction in you. Now, were there any fears that you had to overcome? Like oftentimes I hear people who planning to leave corporate to start their business, there's a bit of those fears. Were there some of those fears when you were making this decision?
Absolutely. I'm scared. I think when you're not scared, right, and you come overconfident, that's when you should be scared, right? And so when I looked at the different revenue models, for example, like every coach or consultant, that's okay if that's just what everyone does. You know, here's a 12-week program, or he's like trying to lock someone in for 6 months and 10 months. And that's okay, I get it. But I like to be a little different. I was scared, like, I don't want to do that revenue model. Work with me for a month or every 3 months maximum. You get value, let's keep going. Because I know if my clients aren't successful, I'm not successful. So I take that to heart. So I was scared trying to figure out the revenue model, but I've worked it out to be more of a SaaS base, and I only do one-on-one.
That's good to know. And I'm curious to hear from the audience here. Any of you looking to make this pivot, type in pivot as well to start your own business. Would love to hear that as well. And I think we discover, you and I, Vince, like I think last year, like you and I do something pretty similar, but just for a different audience, right? You help entrepreneurs to grow their revenue, and I help job seekers to make more money in their corporate jobs, right? That's what we discovered last year. Like we both do like branding, marketing, selling as well, but just for a different audience. We just package it differently.
Totally. It's very similar. I find looking for a job or starting your own business is very similar. Yes, you're solving a pain point, I suppose, for the corporate, right? And they want to know why you're different than the whatever 100 candidates are out there. No different than my entrepreneur clients. We got to figure out why they're different. What problem are they really solving? Can they say it quickly with confidence? Like most entrepreneurs that I see try to, and I've run into that path myself. We try to solve too many problems, right?
Yeah.
So that is one big issue that I see. It just makes life harder. Can you make a living solving 5 problems at once? Sure. It's like that van, right? I always say like it's John's window washing company, super clean, super. You know, John, do you cut lawns? No, I don't. But a lot of people want to take on same customer. I can wash your windows. I can cut your lawn. I can paint your deck. But then how do you brand that? How do you message that? It dilutes the messaging. So I find when you're first starting, one thing only in the beginning. And kill it. Dominate it.
Hashtag focus. That's what it is. That's the key lesson here. So I want to dive in a little bit more about your career as well. What were some of your biggest challenges and lessons learned in your corporate career? Did you face any stereotypes or bias? How did you navigate?
Ooh.
No, that's a big question. It's a big question.
Yeah. You know, early in my career, I was working somewhere and I saw a great opportunity, and I wasn't in the sales role. I was more on the operations, doing operational work. And I just, I went up to my boss and said, hey, I think it's a great opportunity. We don't have anyone doing sales. And I asked him and I said, I was probably in my early 20s. And I said, hey, I'd love to go into sales. I see this great opportunity for the Canadian market. And he said, Vince, you kind of look young. How would you feel if you were to speak to a VP of HR as an example? So I was like, well, what do you mean I look young? Because I'm Asian, So he said it very carefully, but that always stuck in my mind. And I realized I couldn't control my own destiny unless at some point I went out on my own. So that was a huge reflection point for me to say, wow, I'm Asian. I may look young. Look, I just hit 50, right? And I went to a physio this morning and she was like, oh my God, but that's who I am, right? And that the fact that, you'd be concerned about how I look, but I know, I was very ambitious, and I just realized, what, at some point I'm going to go on my own. And that was a huge, huge turning point for me.
Thank you for sharing that. I've definitely faced that, like of people
Yeah.
telling me that I look young. And I think when I was younger, I was like, oh, there's the positive side. I was like, yeah, like, I don't age or whatever. But then on the flip side from work, I've had comments made where because I sold 100K executive MBA programs to executives as well. And I was advised, like, I look young and I need to dress a certain way to look a certain way in order to pitch like 100K program as well. And and I just really learned to be myself instead of having to dress like a button-up suit and all that. I like to bring in my bold colors as well, and to just to be me and build relationships there. So yeah, those are like some of the stereotypes there. Let's talk about how you started and sold your first company.
Well, we did background checks on people that apply for jobs. So we work with HR departments. And I didn't know basically one HR person really before we started. And so what are you supposed to do, right? And we started probably with a $3,000 investment. And we literally just hustled, right? Like I call it, hustle, grind, and scrappy. All my clients know I talk about that. We don't overthink, we go, and we were living literally probably like on $100 a month, like on food. We were going shopping. I remember like getting craft dinner if my, business partner grabbed, some Oreos from the, from whatever the Metro when we were grocery shop. I'm like, put it back. We can't afford it. So we were responsible in terms of budgeting. Like we didn't spend any money basically on advertising. We just wanted to see the problem, do corporations really need a background screening firm? Like, does HR really need to outsource this? Let's go figure out and find out why. Are we really different from our competition, right? We answered those questions before we started the company. Why are we different, right? And what problem are we really trying to solve? So that's when we started. We just hustled, we grinded, and then we didn't get the big companies initially, but we didn't quit. And all those companies that said, Vincent, I remember there's this massive semiconductor company in Canada. I remember I drove a couple hours ago, visit VP of HR after, our chat said, Vincent, we would never outsource this to you. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't add value. I didn't hit the pain points. But I'm myself, and I always try to do better and learn from my mistakes. And I kept in touch with her though. Guess what happened? 9/11, unfortunate incident happened. Vincent, you remember that duotang style package you sent? Because that's all we could afford, right? I love people that the whole fake it till you make it. That ain't me. That's what we can afford. Here's a duotang style package. We're going to throw 50 of these in the mailbox every night. We're going to bind them. We're going to print them out. Our printer broke. We're literally just getting the paper jams out of, that was us in the beginning. We were faxing at one point. People are like, you can't win business faxing. You know what? If everyone says you can't do it, I'm going to do it, right? And I'm going to at least find out for myself if that's really true. And so we just went one client at a time, and then we became a leading background screening firm. But it took 7.5 years to do that. So there's so many people that I speak to, entrepreneurs, like literally globally, that they love what they do. They just sometimes are not patient enough, right? They're like, Vincent, my revenue is only like 1,000, 2,000 a month. I've been starting for 5 months. And then I'll ask, what are they doing? I'm like, keep doing it. But a lot of times people are doing sort of what everyone else is doing to win business. And that's how we try to differentiate. So
I love this. That is so good. Oh my gosh. You guys have to type in learn. I mean, what I'm hearing, one, definitely not giving up attitude. Second is, like hustling as well. Like, do you be willing to put in the hard work out there? Right. That's really key there. And the third one I'm hearing, and that's my next question here, is around differentiation. You got to think about how you're going to really differentiate, which ties into what I talk a lot about, guys. Like if you look at my show, Dare to Differentiate, it's all about how do you really stand out. So my next question here, Vince, is how to identify your key differentiation factors.
Oh, that's a good one. If you don't, well, first thing I would do is figure out whatever business you're in, who your competitors are, right? That's the first thing I would do. or one of the things I would do. And then answer the question, why are you different? Right? And if you don't know why you're different, you're going to have a hard time. Right? So as simple as I work with a bunch of, great coaches, whether they're life coaches or motivational coaches, and there's a million of them out there. And we got to differentiate why they're different, right? So I ask that question to them when they first come on board. I want to see what they say. But sometimes, especially in the coaching world, it could be, look, they've got, they jump in the water 3 times a week, cold water therapy, right? Or I used to, drink or smoke, but, I used to make a 7-figure salary, but then, I was unhappy. And so not every coach has done that. I'm thinking of one of my clients, for example, right? Or so it's very personal sometimes. It's very, very specific, especially, for example, in the coaching world. Not everyone's going to resonate with that, right? We have to accept that. But some people will, right? So you're not really necessarily selling, right? You're differentiating yourself. If I was to, present myself to someone, I would say something on the lines where, without being overconfident, where I started and sold a company to a publicly traded firm, but I got 20 years of failure. Some people love that fact that I've been through that journey and like, oh my God, potentially he could help me, right? So that's a differentiator because there's a million business coaches out there. I don't even consider myself a business coach. I say I'm an entrepreneur sales coach, but people always bring me in. Vince, so you're a business coach, right? So I got to do better with my, an issue with my branding. So I'll talk to you about that later.
But I love that. It's tweaking it, right? There's part of what I'm hearing is tweaking. Like even I recently, like as we're talking about this, I call myself a career coach, but on my LinkedIn and how I've been like rebranding or getting more specific is I call myself a personal branding and job interview expert. And that's my differentiation factor, what I specialize in. And it's because the results or what my clients have been telling me that I'm really good with helping them with identifying their value, coming up with a brand, connecting dots, or helping them really ace their interviews. And so I'm just getting more niche on that. Resonates more with people out there. So I love what you're saying.
The more specific, Diana, the more specific you can be, the better. Because people today don't have time to read. We're getting bombarded with LinkedIn requests that are automated, right? Or there is no message, or there's so much content out there. So with my clients, I train them, why you're different in one sentence. Boom, boom, boom. 3 key differentiators. Or it could be one massive one that's really different. Every scenario is different, but if we don't know why we're different, we're going to be in trouble.
I talk about this, your top 3 unique selling points. You just talk about top 3. So you guys put in like top 3 unique selling points. I love it. I think it's so important to get clear on that. Because one of the questions I always ask my client is like, what's your competitive edge? What really differentiates you? And I'll add in my, as you're talking here, so I'm going to add in a few things from a job search perspective, is to look at your expertise, which is your knowledge, skills, and experience. Analyze that, do like an inventory. And then look at your track record of success, which is your accomplishments, your results, your performance, all the tangible stuff, the proof as well. And then from there, basically analyze it. And I call it, what's the X factor? Based on your expertise and track record of success, what's really your competitive edge there? Now, something I love working with my clients on. I help them connect the dots. So I look at it and I'm like, let's look at this together. What differentiates you?
Diana, you brand that way better than I do. X factor, right? These very specific. I love it.
Oh, this is so good. I love it. So let's go into your topic here, Tyson. How to win business opportunities without selling. How to stand out.
Well,
this is the $1 million question.
2 things. I would say you got to figure out, and this is a big thing. It's not, I thought people could just Google this, but a lot of people do need help with this, is what is the one massive problem that you're trying to solve? I know we talked about it earlier, but I'll emphasize that. So a lot of times when I say, to my clients, that's one question I always ask, and ask yourself that, anyone who's listening, right? What do you do? What does your business do? And I'll see the responses when I ask my clients that. They'll go on, and it's not clear to me. If someone says, Vincent, what do you do? I help solopreneurs grow revenue. That's it. it's clear who I serve, and the massive pain that I solve is the revenue. If someone's, you know, has problem getting customers or growing their business, a lot of my clients then come with me zero revenue. You know, I have a client that went from zero. He's in New York. You know, he does website design, IT. He went from zero to like 10, 15K, right? But we didn't start that right away, right? We had to figure out what is the one massive problem that he's trying to solve. And so everyone wants to solve too many problems. So that's one thing. And you've got to be able to say that in one line. So whether you're doing content, or if you're doing an interview, or if you're posting, I suppose, you're not selling, obviously you're adding value, or even, God forbid, if you're, you know, cold calling, right? So I love the fact that people say cold calling's dead. Like, I challenge that. I have a client in Atlanta. Every business is different, right? He serves engineers, right? And so he said, Vincent, how are we going to go get the business, right? Well, first of all, I don't even know what you do. It took you 10 minutes to explain. So we got niche down. One problem only. I won't get too much into it, but it took a little while, right? He's a former veterinarian. He's like 50 something years old, right? Right in there with me. And then secondly, I didn't understand why he was different. So we figured that out. Okay, once you have those two figured out in one sentence each, how do you go win the business? Now, every business is different. In his specific case, they're engineers. They ain't hanging out on LinkedIn all day long, civil engineers, right? They're getting bombarded from developers, insurances, whatever. But we knew that was the case. And we had to figure out, we had to speculate. Is it engineering firms that are 20 employees or 30 employees and under, right?
Yeah.
We can't be 100% sure. But then what do we do? In his case, believe it or not, I taught him how to pick up the phone, because we knew engineers weren't necessarily, you know, going on LinkedIn. We had to figure out a direct way. No one does that anymore, right? So I would say that's not dead, but that's just one, right? Secondly, another really amazing tip would be, or a suggestion, video messages on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, no one is doing it. It's crazy. Some of my clients are going to hate me for saying it, but I want to try to help, right? Like, if you look at your own inbox today, what's everyone doing?
Email.
It's a templated message. No one is really taking the time to say something specific about them. It's very crafty, the automation. I get why people are doing it, but I'm thinking this from a solopreneur standpoint. How do we differentiate if we're competing against maybe bigger corporations, right? We've got to be scrappy. So once the way we craft, we always send, for example, a LinkedIn request message. If we're to do that, we would pertain it, right? We're not automating. We're going after the pain that we believe that client's having, right? Once they accept that we're not selling, we're sending a video message. It's a personalized video message. I have clients saying, "Oh my God, this is exhausting, Vince." Yeah, guess what? If it's exhausting for you, guess who else it's exhausting for? Your competition. That's why people aren't doing it. The video message on LinkedIn is absolutely amazing, but personalize it. Personalize it. Every single one. I wouldn't have said that 3 years ago, but I'm just an observer, right? I look at my own LinkedIn inbox. I think I've received one video message, but it was a link to a YouTube or something. It wasn't personalized.
Yeah. I've only received a couple of those. I could see it good and bad. Good in a sense, like it's personalized. Yep. Sometimes it depends on how long the message is as well, too, in terms of people listening to it. But I do agree in terms of what your point here is, personalizing and connecting. I think that's what you're really pointing out too. I have found too, for myself, through my videos, like in terms of my content, my video content as well, that has helped in terms of building the know, like, and trust factor as well. So a lot of people who come to me now for hiring my services as a coach, they would say, I've already seen your webinar, I've seen your videos on LinkedIn, I feel like I already know you already, and they've already made that decision that they would want to work with me. So the process of closing, it does become easier than a cold outreach there, I find.
Yes, I love I like the content strategy. However, if someone's just launching and they're trying to
Yes.
compete with you, right, Diana? And you're all over and everyone's playing. I mean, everyone today is playing the content strategy. And that's okay, because how you win business, or people always want to work with people who they know, like, and trust. So how I train myself is, how do we deliver that message without being salesy? So it's not about selling. So if I was to leave a video message, I would not be selling. I'd be like, Diana, it's all about you. I want to learn about you so I can open up my network and refer business your way. I'm not even going to talk about pitching you at all. It's quite the opposite. But I will subtly put it in there, why I'm different and the problem I solve and what I'm hoping for. And this is the trick, where someone's going to nod their head and say, oh my gosh, that's the pain I'm having. I need help with revenue. But Vincent pitched me, but I am more than happier to learn about, but he wants to learn about me. But it's very true, I do. And if you're authentic, and so that's the thing, you can be authentic just in a different way, but just don't be salesy. That's the key. Right?
I love that. I love that. But what I'm hearing, in order to do that, you do need to know those pain points, right? In terms of the pain points, so that you can speak about it, so that they can, like you said, like, agree with you, like, these, you understand me, you hear me, and be able to talk about essentially your value. When you say what differentiates you is your unique value and how you help, and that they connect the dots of, like, okay, he can solve this problem because that's their value as well, right? So it's through those conversations there.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Oh, this is so good. What are those common mistakes that you see that people make in sales?
They're pitching you right away. They're literally pitching you. You can tell, for specifically LinkedIn, which, that I focus on, it's automated. There's nothing personal about it, right? Yeah. So, and then as soon as you accept, you go in a cadence, right? And so a lot of people can automate that process today, but I think people are sick of it. That's why, I'm all about, with my clients, are we really solving a problem? If we are, let's go find out that that's a problem. Then let's go find out without being salesy. And then here comes the video message. And I think today, that's one of the best messages. Now, will that change? Absolutely. But for now, until my LinkedIn is filled with, 80% of video messages, I would say that's an awesome technique to try. Basically,
do things that people are not doing to stand out. That's what it is, right? Yes. I love that. That's so good. It's similar to what I tell my clients of creating like a video cover letter.
Ooh, right? I like that.
It's like personalizing to the company, where you have like a little intro about you and why you want to work for them, versus the traditional cover letter.
I love that. I love that. And I would, and then I'm sure you tell them to follow up on LinkedIn with that person, send a video message.
Yeah. Speaking of follow up, okay, let's talk about this. I have a couple more questions to be done here, guys. I want to hear what you guys are learning from this. But following up, I just want to say, I remember last year when you and I talked, I don't know what we were talking about, but we were talking about following up. And that was your advice, actually, that you gave me about following up. And I remember I was looking back my LinkedIn message that I took your advice to follow up on my leads as well, where I gave them either a value add in terms of an article, a video, answer their questions as well, that will lead to a close. And can we talk a little bit about that, like how to follow up without being pushy or salesy?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, you have to have a follow-up process. You have to follow up. And I always have to remind myself, the best opportunities that you usually win are the ones that you don't think, and vice versa. Vincent, I've learned so much. That was awesome. I'd love to use you. Yeah, starting next week. Let me get, send me the info. Guess what happens? They never come on board. The ones that are not sure, Vince, or, and I'll ask why, what is it that you need? Or the conversation, it was good, but it wasn't great. Or the person, just like our background screening days, we would never even go to that extreme. We would never, Vincent, I would never use you. Right?
Yeah.
Those are actually the ones who will be your client. So in other words, obviously it's not going to happen all the time, but I always find you never know what's going on with someone else on that specific day that you had that initial conversation or when you followed up. So in general, I would say 5 to 8 touches in general, just to get a hold of someone these days, right? And then after that, I would just, you know, make sure always adding value, like take the time to learn. One was, you know, how many kids do they have? Do they have a dog? Or like, you got to care. You got to be authentic, right? So if you're going to start a business for the money, forget about it. You're done in 3 years, or you're going to be very unhappy making the money. Do what you love. Do what you friggin' do all day long for free, and it will show. It will show, and it will take time, but follow up with passion and sincerity, right? How are things going? Is there anything I do? You know, an article that, you know, they talked about, you know, something about their dog or whatever it is, just send it over. And so it is about, it's not necessarily following, hey, when are you going to sign up? I never say what's going on? Have things changed? Anything I can do, I'd be more than happy to jump on a call at any time. And I really mean that, right? Until my calendar's full, or if it's open that day, I will do it until I pass out, right? Because I love it. And so if you're not willing to do that, it's going to be tough.
I love it. I can totally feel your passion in this. Like, this is what you do, like who you are. This is why your clients love you as well. I mean, I love it. And I do feel like even when you and I talk, like, you know, when we catch up, it feels like we're just catching up too, but then we jam about business ideas and opportunities. Right. And that's relationship building. That's what it really is. It's relationship building there. So what's the final takeaway here? What's the final advice on managing your career or business that you have for our audience here?
For managing your career or business, look, you only have one life to live, right? So I go back to, you know, it took me a long time to figure that out. That's what it is. Do what you do for free all day long. However, you've got to validate someone's going to pay you to do it, right? So make sure someone's going to pay you to do it. I think it starts from there. So it's like building a house, right? If the foundation ain't strong, you're going to collapse in 3 years, whether that, you know, so if you're going to be unhappy. So make sure first and foremost, you're doing something that you love, but validate that passion that people will pay for you, you know, will pay you to do it. So for example, I think you asked me a question the other day, and I was telling you that, you know, my piano teacher told me I was tone deaf, right? And so I sucked at piano. I did, right? But I've learned now, you know, I can learn on YouTube. There's so many great people teaching YouTube for free that I've tried to learn to play guitar off that. Now, I'm passionate, but would I do that for free all day long? You better believe it. But I also know no one's going to pay me to do it. So you've got to be careful about the passion, right? And you got to validate that people would actually pay you to do it, if that makes sense.
Ooh, that's so good. That's such great advice there. I love it, love it, love it. Oh, thank you so much for your time and wisdom today. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And I just want to say I'm so proud of you for coming on live for the first time with me as well.
The first for everyone.
Exactly, right? And I'm sure there's going to be opportunities for us to collaborate, like on webinars and workshops in the future together.
Diana, thank you so much. You're amazing. I love what you do. I love the passion behind your work. So I'm a huge supporter of yours. So when you asked me, I couldn't say no.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you just giving me a call last week when I was like, all right, let's just do this, Vince.
Pick up the phone. No one does it.
That's another tip, right? If it is true, right? Like usually, so for me, I don't just pick up random calls, but that day I recognized it was you. So I was like, I'm going to pick up Vince's calls. I usually don't pick up like random numbers, but I recognized because I reached out to you as well. And that's sometimes how you connect with people right away to make things happen as well there.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend and I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Diana.
All right. You take care. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what a day today. We kicked off season 2 Dare to Differentiate show on Amplifying Asian Voices, where we feature 3 speakers, Lorraine K. Lee, editor at Prezi, where she talked about delivering dynamic presentations, virtual presentations, and we learned some things around how it's so important to add movement into your slides, to have great lighting, to have to be able to really connect with your audience as well. So that was great. Second, we had Dr. John Tam, who is a career clarity coach, and he talked about breaking the bamboo ceiling. And he really emphasized in order to break that bamboo ceiling, we really need to work on building trust and really working on building our soft skills as well. And then lastly, we had Vincent Tsang to talk about winning without selling. And a lot of it, it's all about being authentic, doing what you love, and be able to just really follow up with people with a personalized message and to show that you sincerely care about them as well. And one of the other things is to really understand what type of problems you're solving and what really differentiates you. And so for those, whether you are starting a business or looking to get a new job, it is so key to really get clear on what you're targeting, what you're going after, understand what makes you unique and different so that you can then sell yourself effectively and tailor your messages to the employer there. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. Let me know what are some of your key learnings there. Next week, we have 6 speakers. It's going to be almost like a 3-hour show. They're going to have 6 speakers. Check out my website, mymarkability.com/events. We have 6 speakers. Let me see if I can quickly share this with you guys. I want to just quickly, if I can share the speakers here for those who didn't catch it yesterday. I just want to quickly show you, if I could do this here, the 14th. Let me just quickly do a quick share here. Yes, next week on the 14th, we have Esther Park, VP of Business Operations at London, and NG Park, who is a doctoral candidate in Asian Studies, Tanya Dessa, who is a D&I consultant and CEO at Dessa Global Leadership, Cindy Wong, who's head of marketing and communications at the Cooperators. She's also recognized as Canada's top 100 most powerful women in Canada. John Yip, who is the president and CEO of Kensington Health. And lastly is Syedad Fard, who's the SVP Finance of Point Click Care. So we have some amazing speakers lined up. I hope you guys will join me next week here at 12 p.m. Eastern or 9 a.m. PST time there. If you can't catch live, make sure to catch the replay on my YouTube channel. I will be adding timestamps as well so that you can easily view the speakers or the topics that you're interested in there. Okay, so let me take a look at what we have here. What are some of the key learnings from you guys here from today? Let me see here. Yes, the other thing is, if you want any more free resources, just go onto my website at mymarkability.com. Click on free resources. I have free resources on career clarity, networking, and interview prep as well. So if you need any of that help, feel free to grab those free resources. Make sure that you follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube and on my Facebook as well. All right, so much learning. Amazing to hear that. Yes, oh my gosh, that's so great. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I see Elizabeth here still. Thank you so much for being here. Simone is here as well. Thank you. Galam as well. Thank you so much, you guys. Yeah, there was quite a few here as well. So, and I want to give a big shout out to my friend Simrat as well for moderating the chat room and all these displaying the chats as well. I really, really appreciate you and your friendship as well. So until next time, I will see you guys next week. All right, you take care.